So today we're going to be talking about the coup in Niger and how it could actually lead to a war in Western Africa. Now, if you didn't know, I think a couple weeks ago, Niger succumbed to a coup and their leader was thrown out and placed under house arrest. And since then, a union over here in Western Africa, which is known as the Economic Community of West African States, which is an economic community of West African states, if you didn't get the name, has threatened to intervene military-wise if the coup does not end and if the president is not put back into power. They gave the Niger military coup a deadline to, put the president back into power, which I believe was August 6th. And since then, he has not been put back in power, which means that the ECOWAS, or the Economic Community of West African States, has every right, or I guess not every right, but has the means to intervene military-wise. Now, other countries around the world, specifically France and the United States, have already put their input in this. Of course, the United States has military bases in pretty much every country in the world, including Niger. I think there's around 1,000 troops there. Of course, it's going to concern them. And France, who was a previous colonial overlord for Niger. And apparently France is also working with these other countries down here in order to sort out a military intervention should they choose to do so. Now, there is a catch though, because not every ECOWAS member is on board with this military intervention. In fact, Mali and Burkina Faso, who are both under military coups as well, I think have, well, according to the article that I read, I guess I should state my source. So my source is Reuters. Anyway, they have said that they will defend Niger should these other African nations choose to invade, or I guess invade Niger and intervene military-wise to put the president back into power. Now, of course, France is on board with doing this because, once again, they have interest and a reason to be so, and the United States is in support of this as well, as they have troops there. Now, the US has also stated that it's not going to withdraw its troops or do anything different with them, and in fact, if the ECOWAS does invade, their troops will remain in their bases. So technically, if you accidentally shoot and kill an American troop in Niger, you might be in trouble with a few 31 different countries over here in Europe. Now, if you don't know geography and you're not particularly good with Africa, which I understand, it took me a while to get Africa down, this is Niger. They are currently under a military coup. And then over here we have Mali, this weird looking triangle thing. And then here we have Burkina Faso, which looks like something. Now, these countries that I've highlighted here aren't particularly strong. In fact, none of these West African countries are strong, which explains why they're in an economic union. However, though, they are deserty, but their southern regions do tend to be more green, I guess sub-Saharan, if you will. Now, as for the countries who are in the ECOWAS, I don't know how to shorten that any more than just saying the name or just saying the abbreviation, but Senegal, the Gambia, I almost called it Equatorial Guinea, but it's Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, Benin, and most notably Nigeria. These are the countries which are in support, or not in support of, but are willing to intervene military-wise in Niger should the coup not end. Now, also, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but Mali and Burkina Faso, who are under military coups, are also suspended from the ECOWAS right now. So they have a reason to defend Niger because they're undergoing the same process as Niger, being overthrown by your military. Now, like I also said earlier, France would intervene in this, likely. I don't know if they would use their own military force, but they would most certainly help out these southern nations in invading Niger. And the US would most likely stay neutral, although of course they would be leaning towards helping out these guys in order to, serve the beneficial side for them. Niger, the military coup there, hasn't messed with the US military at all. And in fact, I think there is some cooperation. However, I'm sure they would most likely have it back under the constitutional government instead of the, I guess, dictatorship government. So what would this war actually look like? Well, let's go ahead and break it down a little bit. So Mali and Burkina Faso, not strong countries. Niger is, it's complicated, but the only strong country that I would say is notably on the blue team is Nigeria itself. Actually, probably one of the stronger countries in Africa. Whereas over here on the blue side, Nigeria, probably the fourth strongest country in Africa. And then Benin is the weakest country in Africa. And then Sierra Leone, I think Senegal, these guys aren't further off from Benin. So a lot of these blue countries are under power compared to these three guys, but Nigeria is going to carry the blue team. So what would this war actually look like? So taking a look at a counter invasion, of course the red team would be on defense here since they are the ones technically being attacked, although they are colored in red in this case. But the blue team would likely start to seep in from all sides and it would be a very slow war. It would be a very interesting war as well. However, the main focus of the war, of course, is to liberate Niger. A large majority of the military forces are over here. And also talking about the geography of this region, it's relatively flat. I mean, there's some hills at best. But yeah, flat and sandy and dry. But yes, the blue team would start to seep in, but without a doubt, we would have Mali and Burkina Faso pushing back against these weaker countries, specifically over here in these regions. Well, in fact, pretty much everywhere except for Nigeria. So they hold their own and push back, and even start to push into these other countries, specifically targeting over towards Sierra Leone. Benin and Togo start to fold without a doubt, and Ghana is soon to follow. But it's semi-realistic. However, if we're going to account for this, we also got to account for this. Nigeria would actually, like, they would swoop Niger in the war. Their capital, I think it's Niamey, is like right here. So without a doubt, that would fall within a couple of days. And without their capital, you know, they free the president, he retakes his power. And essentially, all they have to do is fight off any like guerrilla warfare fighters, which may escape to the north here, which is unlikely. So yeah, Niger is liberated. And from here, a large scale pushback is happening, which is all in control by Nigeria. We do see a little bit more of pushing around by Mali and Burkina Faso over here in the western part of the Union. But at the end of the day, it is likely that this would mean nothing, as these countries are swept through and likely taken back over by the people. But I'm not really sure about the opinion of the people on the military junta, so maybe not. But they fall. Sure, guerrilla warfare would still happen between the military and the, I guess, the government forces. But at the end of the day, the red team doesn't stand any chance. Now, if Nigeria wasn't in this alliance, then it might be a different story. But Nigeria is in this alliance, the fourth strongest country in Africa, a notable power in the world. And, you know, France and the United States are also probably pulling the strings in this war as well, supplying the blue team. So it is likely that the red team would fail. Now, other countries could also get involved, but that's unlikely. Mauritania, Algeria, and maybe even Chad, Cameroon, those guys could show interest in this war. However, I don't think they would. Once again, Cameroon, they border Nigeria, and the only, like, I don't think logically that makes any sense. Chad, they could seek to maybe get land out of Niger, but that's extremely unlikely because they don't have a reason to get involved. Maybe Mauritania due to any disputes, same with Algeria. But other than that, this war is a wrap. In a peace deal, there would be no border changes, and that's because they're simply overthrowing the wrong power that took over. So it would make no sense for them to take any land in this war, simply because they just restored the rightful, I guess, leader of the country. So yeah, that's maybe what could happen with the Niger coup. Now, once again, this is a real life event that's taken place in the past couple of days. There's developing events. I covered the Ukraine war when it first broke out, so, you know, I do this sometimes. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this informative kind of what if scenario video. It's kind of a weird one. It's a little bit mix of what I do between like talking about news and then mapping. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated, especially right now as my life becomes a disaster due to school and other activities. Anyway, once again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. And of course, thank you to all the super fans. This includes Patrick Clauser, Yo Moma Moma, Texan Cowboy Cheese, Kylie Speaks Plays, Poland Country Ball, Dimitri, DW Cool Dude, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Yakko, Soviet Ball, and Serminator. Once again, thank you guys.